Okay, folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier, and I'm here for another episode of Life Lessons with Mikey Messier. And the show is brought to you by MikeMessier.com and distributed through Wrestling with the Future podcasts. Many great podcasts are available now on the Wrestling with the Future podcast family for wrestling fans and also for music fans. There's something in there for everybody, so check us out wherever you find podcasts, Wrestling with the Future. So this show, I kind of got into some tangible life lessons. We had the moving two-part episode. We had screenwriting and we had acting experiences. This time, I'm going to do something a little different. These are going to be more, nuggets of information and thoughts that you can, take, leave, adjust for your own needs, put in the back of your mind for a later date, etc. The first thing is kind of a simple one. I think I've got 7 points of interest here. The first one is buy in advance / buy in bulk. Now, this is not if you've ever gone to Costco or you've ever gone to any of these, warehouse places, sometimes you have to pay a membership and you buy like a year's worth of Doritos or a month's worth of ice cream or Kool-Aid or whatever the hell you buy. But there are other things you can apply this to as well. I recently discovered insurance, different insurance plans. You can actually pay in advance for 6 months at a time, and I got a $60 break by paying 6 months in advance for a particular type of insurance. Now, an advisor to me was telling me, "Oh, well, nobody does that. Nobody does that. Everybody pays month to month." Well, I said, "Why?" And the response was just because, something might happen and then they have to make adjustments. Well, okay. The odds are that something won't happen. And the reason that I would be paying this extra $60 if I did month to month over the course of 6 months was simply because of a tax, a charge, a state tax that would come every time I would pay a bill. Now, if I paid 6 months in advance, I'd only get jacked that monthly extra charge once. So I went ahead and I paid 6 months in advance. And was it something that financially was easy to do? No. But I did the math on the equation, and it just seemed to make sense that if I can pull off this 6 month in advance charge right now and save $60 over the next 6 months, every month I'm saving myself not only the monthly payment for the next 6 months, but over this duration, I'm saving, I guess, the $10 every month as well. So it seemed to make sense to me, and that's just a little anecdote. So don't be afraid to think for yourself, because if I had listened to this advisor, I would be paying every month and fretting it and shaking my fist in frustration. Why didn't I just pay this bill when I could have and avoided this $60 extra payment? Okay, so that's one thing. And then, of course, buying in bulk. If you can, if you have room for stuff. A friend of mine just signed up for this meat company that's going to deliver him meat. This grass-fed meat for years on end. And he had to buy a freezer for his garage and so forth. I don't know about all that, but that's his life lesson, not mine. The next one's a little different. I'm calling it the pick your spots. And other people might use this term. You've probably heard, if you ever used the expression or heard the expression, the hill to die on. Well, that wasn't my hill to die on. Or I chose my hill to die on. It's very fatalistic and very grandiose. But it's basically like when you're arguing with someone, it could be a spouse, it could be an employer. You don't want to get into the weeds of just arguing for the sake of arguing. So people say, oftentimes it's an employee talking about their work situation and they had some idea that wasn't well received. And they went to management and blah, blah, blah. And management didn't listen to them, but they say, ultimately, it wasn't my hill to die on. I have a different way of looking at that, or a different take on it. I call it picking your spots. Before you even start the argument, don't even get on that hill. Pick whether the hill is something you want to get on at all. Sometimes it's called picking your spots. You pick the things that you want to fight for, or you pick the things you want to get involved in. And here's a way of looking at this phenomena: charity, or public good. I mean, a lot of people feel that it's their requirement or their thing in life that they have to support every charity or every cause, or they have to donate to every GoFundMe or every Indiegogo or every Kickstarter. But if you have the money, go ahead and do that. But sometimes you have to pick your spots. You can't be all things to all people. So I just say pick your spots. It kind of reminds me of that Michael Jordan documentary that's going on now. Michael did not feel comfortable putting his name towards a political candidate. He had a private conversation on a bus that got leaked, and this is back in the early 90s. And suddenly his reputation was tarnished and tainted because he didn't want to get involved. He wanted to pick his spots. So in any event, you can't win. Here's another one. The inner circle. Now, the inner circle for wrestling fans, that means one thing, but for the rest of us, inner circle, I say don't get involved in the inner circle with some things. And what I mean by that is I've noticed in my life certain things, for instance, church groups, church as in religion. You go to these church groups and everything's fine and dandy when you're first getting there. When you're first getting to come to the church and they're trying to indoctrinate you or they're trying to welcome you into the fold, they treat you like you're a celebrity. After you've been around for a while, you're just another face in the crowd. Then they start expecting you to stack chairs. Then they start expecting you to come to the charity thing on the weekend and do volunteer hours and so forth. Now, for some people who want a sense of community and giving back and all that good stuff, that's well and fine. But if you're like me and you're kind of a self-centered individual who really just wants to take care of your own self and your own life, don't feel guilty about that. Just pick, once again, pick your spots, but avoid being in the inner circle. If people ask you to be on an advisory team or on a board or a campaign team or some type of counseling team, avoid it. Now look, if you need that sense of involvement or that sense of responsibility or that sense of people trusting you, then go ahead and do whatever you want. But if you are like me and you like to pick your spots in this world and not get tied down, then avoid getting brought into the inner circle. Go into these groups, but limit your time. Make it a special thing for them when you show up, because then they're wondering, oh, well, Mike's always very busy. Mike doesn't have the time to be here all the time, so that his presence is raised. His presence is more valued if you're there less. Absence makes the heart grow fonder in that sense. So avoid inner circles because you don't want to get bogged down by committees and think tanks and votes and all that stuff. And that's when you start learning the gossip and who hates who and all the rumors, of those situations. Okay. This is more of a practical tip, a life lesson. When you think about the things you need to buy for your weekly routine, whether it's snack food or bottled water or detergent, dental floss, toothpaste, toothbrushes, the dollar store really does come into effect. Now, the dollar store most prominent in my existence is the Dollar Tree. And for the most part, I've had really good scenarios. You can even go to their website, order stuff online, and pick it up in the shop. So if you've ever been to a Dollar Tree and they had some interesting item, like maybe a dish, and you said, wow, I'd like to have my whole house full of these dishes, but then the next thing you know, you go back to that Dollar Tree and they're sold out of your favorite Dollar Tree dish, you can go to their website and order it online. Isn't that nice? And pick it up in the store. So I stand by the Dollar Tree. They're not sponsoring this life lesson, but perhaps they should. If any other companies want to contact me and sponsor life lessons, feel free. My integrity is for sale, just nobody's buying, so to speak. What else? Shoelaces. I've covered this in a previous Mike Messier video, but to show you my shoelace, Now, they're untied right now just for comfort. That one happens to be tied. These shoelaces are Kiwi brand shoelaces. I've experimented recently with other brands, and I've had some good luck. But basically, a boot lace. These are boot laces, folks. These are not the laces that came with the shoe originally. I am purchasing boot laces that are thicker. They give you a snugger grip on your shoe, on your foot. You're going to walk all day, especially if you're walking for exercise or jogging or whatever the hell. Make sure you replace your... if you look at the shoelaces that come with just about any pair of shoe, even expensive sneakers or shoes, the shoelaces are usually god-awful and horrible. So replace them with boot laces. I do recommend the Kiwi brand. I've recently discovered another brand. I'll do a follow-up. This one's kind of nice. You might not be expecting this from me, but drugs and alcohol, I'm not a proponent of. I don't really drink. A lot of people will tell you if they know me socially that I'm not an alcohol drinker. I'm not a drug user. And a lot of people need some vice, a vice in their life. And you could say for me that might be food. That might be sweets, sugars, and so forth. Which I'm trying to fight that, but it's hard sometimes. But for others, they need marijuana. They need alcohol. They need a glass of red wine. And of course, a glass of red wine always turns into the whole fucking bottle, in case you've noticed with certain folks. So for me, I just typically avoid it. I typically don't drink alcohol. If you really think about it, they'll always try to feed you that line. Oh, 1 or 2 drinks with dinner is good for you 3 or 4 times a week. Who made that fucking lie up? Probably a wine salesman. So I don't particularly drink alcohol. What else? Things like marijuana, cocaine, all that stuff. I avoid it. And look how well I've achieved things. Finally, once again, an esoteric life lesson. Icing the heat. Icing the heat. What is that, you might say? That is, if you ever have an interpersonal dynamic, and this could happen online or it could happen in real life, with real people, where there's a heat. There's heat. Heat meaning a situation that might be emotionally charged. It might be a conflict. It might be a misunderstanding. It might be a frustration. It might be sexual tension. Who knows? It might be about money, misunderstanding. But whatever it is, sometimes people have that urge, and I can understand this urge to confront the situation and talk about it right away and get right back to me and address the situation. And yes, that can be done sometimes in the most urgent of necessities. But I've noticed in the arc of my life, in the last several years, people are just different now, whether it's been the internet, social media, and now it's more like a passive cooling off of the tension, what I call icing the heat. Basically means ignore the situation, let it cool, let your tempers cool off a bit, you and the other party, and whatever the tension, if it's hateful, if it's confrontational, if it's where's this relationship going, what do you mean to me, what do I mean to you, all that stuff. Ice the heat. In other words, ignore it, stay away from it. And in that absence of each other's presence, you and the other party might discover that in that lag time, things go away. Now, granted, that's kind of a passive way of doing business. And I'm not saying in all situations icing the heat is what's called for, but I have discovered that tactic has been working for me more so in recent times than it might have in the past. Maybe I was a little angrier and younger. Maybe I wanted to confront the demons of the world. But now I'm discovering that icing the heat, more times than not, is the way to go. Okay, so that's it. MikeMessier.com. Thanks to Angelo, Psychic Medium, at the Wrestling with the Future podcast. And make sure you like and subscribe to these videos and share them. Don't be selfish. Share these videos. Copy and paste the link. Do your part. MikeMessier.com.